Hello there, and welcome to A Film a Day with me, Jordan Woodley. And today I am allowing myself the opportunity to go back through the Safdie Brothers after watching Uncut Gems a few months ago now, and also watching a Robert Pattinson film with the 2015 Good Time. Robert Pattinson, unfortunately, even a decade on from the Twilight Saga, is still painted with the brush of someone who, his association and obviously the type of performance that he gives in that film means people think of him as a YA actor. And it's not purely the fault of the Twilight Saga, no matter what people's thoughts of it are, because the same is said of Kirsten Stewart. The same is said even of other YA film sagas, like with Jennifer Lawrence, like with Shailene Woodley. It's very difficult to redefine yourself and demonstrate your skills as an actor and your range when people have such a clear association of you with a certain property, particularly when it's more veered towards a younger demographic. The same could be said of Disney Channel actors. They famously have a difficult time of transitioning to more mature, serious work because of the association. And Robert Pattinson has really spent the last decade trying to define himself as a nuanced, complex actor with a real range to his ability. He's not an actor you can accuse of being a character actor. He is someone who wants to disappear into roles and into changing himself completely for the very various different kinds of films that he is in. Very much in the same manner as Christian Bale, that chameleon sense of changing his body, changing his look, changing the way he holds himself, changing his mannerisms, so that when you watch one Robert Pattinson performance to the next, you don't feel like you're looking at the same person. Now, I will confess that I hadn't dismissed him as an actor, but I just hadn't had the opportunity to see his abilities in the last several years. And the film that probably really changed my mind was The Lighthouse. I'd already, through sort of osmosis, I'd already learned that he was an actor who really had great ability and gravitas, and I'd heard of Waters for Elephants or Good Time, and yet I just hadn't witnessed his abilities firsthand until I saw The Lighthouse, which is a strange film in itself, and unfortunately, having seen it, I'm not particularly interested in returning to it because it's a shame, which is a shame, because this would be a great platform to discuss the strange and art house nature of The Lighthouse. But he's gone on, of course, onto films like Tenet, and famously he is going to be the Batman, the newest Batman, sometime I think next year. But Good Time is one of those overlooked films where, because it's fairly small, the Safdie brothers, though they built a reputation in independent indie filmmaking, they really had no major films to their name and hadn't quite developed the clout that when a new Safdie brothers film comes out, that is something you want to see. Of course, with Uncut Gems, it's famously focused on the anxiety-inducing environment and atmosphere that they generate through visuals and audio, and the way that the character interacts with the world around him, all of which is to create this unceasing feeling of tension and stress until you reach the climax. And Good Time, my feelings coming away from Good Time is that it is a proto-version of that. Similarly, it is pushing the boundaries of anxiety cinema. It's really trying to put you in the position of a character who is under so much immense pressure and stress that it would take one small event to cause them to snap, or for everything they're doing to collapse under the weight of anxiety and of circumstance. And I do think that the film does that really well. It doesn't quite have the polish of Uncut Gems. It doesn't hold together quite as well. So the plot follows Robert Pattinson as Connie, the brother of a developmentally disabled man, played by Benjamin Safdie, one of the brothers, who, in an attempt to liberate himself and his brother financially from external forces, including his grandmother, including the state, who want to assess and put his brother into, frankly, a facility that would benefit him, but from Connie's perspective, that's tantamount to locking him away in an asylum. And so, in an attempt to financially liberate them, he begins to commit he commits a bank robbery. Unfortunately, as a consequence, his brother is caught and arrested, and the film then is about him trying to either bail or break his other brother out and get away before the police can catch up with him, because he is also wanted for the bank robberies. And as I say, it really has that time pressure, the financial aspect of it, because he's told fairly early on he needs to have £10,000 to bail his brother out. And so there's that sense of, okay, we know the objectives. Like with Uncut Gems, the objectives are clear, which is he needs either this amount of money or he needs a method to rescue his brother. And from there on, it's about him reaching out to contacts. He has a girlfriend, played by Jennifer Jason Leigh, who is clearly a very troubled woman, significantly older than him, but also emotionally unstable. It is very clear. It's never stated, but you can see in her performance the way that she interacts with her family members and their disapproving of her relationship with him, that she is someone who has real troubles of her own. So he tries to reach out to her, and through her, possibly get the money together. He attempts to actively rescue his brother because of his brother's emotional and developmental problems. He ends up in the hospital under armed guard, and so he, of course, attempts to liberate him. And the film continues these different ways, and there is that same sense of clock to it. It's unclear. The passage of time does slightly shift about, because the opening incident happens as a prologue before the credits, and it's a good 15 minutes of the opening sequence before we enter the film proper, and even the credits start playing, which is a little strange and disorientating, but it's all there to establish that, okay, the film opens with the brother. We establish who he is and what the stakes are. We set the events up, and then from the point in which the credits roll, we are following Robert Pattinson. We are following his journey, and then that is attempting the same almost real-time style that Uncut Gems has, where we barely leave the side of that character. As I say, he's constantly trying different methods to help his brother, and the way that he interacts with the world around him is very much through small exchanges with characters in a very vignette style. So different sections of the film does feel like very different tones depending on who he's interacting with. And there is one sequence where you do even get a character recalling events that leads into a flashback, and that's very separate from the real tone pace of the film. It's funny, really, because thinking back to when I discussed Placed Beyond the Pines, and the way that that film was marketed and how people discussed it, or the anticipation that people had for it, this film really feels like what people thought that film was going to be, at least in its first act. Because it does have that real working class, underclass sense of crime to it, where in Place Beyond the Pines, it's about this guy who's, desperate to support his family by any means necessary and goes into low-level bank robberies. And in this case, it's about a guy who's trying to help his brother by going to bank robberies. And there is something in the tone of it, the sense of disorientation created through colour and light and sound, where you almost are put in the mind of these men and how they're constantly on edge and disorientated and are having to think very quickly on their feet to achieve very low stakes, not low stakes perhaps, but low level objectives that conditions that they really create for themselves. And yeah, it is a really interesting film in that respect, and I do think it's a strong follow-on that would allow the Safdie brothers to create this kind of story that then they would refine with Uncut Gems. I think Uncut Gems does it better because I think the pacing is stronger. I think they have a clearer vision with clearer objectives for the character, whereas this definitely has edges to it that are a little rough and a little weaker in terms of character motivations, character interactions, and the pacing overall, where it's just not as focused as Uncut Gems is in terms of its style. But again, that's not entirely a criticism of it. I do think that it retains that spirit and it demonstrates their abilities. And again, it demonstrates that the hope is that they will continue this style into further films and they will only get stronger and stronger. So yeah, I do think this is a really fun watch. I do think this is, again, a really great demonstration of the Safdie brothers' abilities as directors, Robert Pattinson's ability as an actor, and it's a style that I do want to see more, particularly for these kind of character stories, because I think it does demonstrate a method by which we can really get into the headspace of people in a way that transcends just observing, but really sort of attacks our senses as well. So yes, a very good watch indeed. Thank you for joining me. If you like this video, hit the like button, comment below and share the video, because those always help me in the algorithm. Subscribe to the channel and hit the little bell to get notifications of when new videos are uploaded, and please do check out my back catalogue. I'm about to hit the 150 mark, so I have a good chunk of films to look at. Thank you for joining me. Take care.